Okay, everyone. Hello, I'm Ruthie Bowles with Defy the Status Quo. We offer content marketing and strategy as well as digital information products for large and small B2B service and consulting businesses. And today we are going to cover outsourcing and why you'll need to outsource before you actually hire your first employee. So this presentation is targeted towards small business owners and even solopreneurs. And as we get into the presentation, you'll understand why. Some of my presentations, can apply equally to large and small businesses, but this one is specifically for those small business owners out there. So here's some common misconceptions about outsourcing, that you need to have a significant bottom line. You need to be raking in crazy amounts of profit, and that's actually just not true. You'll hire your first employee before you outsource anything. Now, that could be the way that you do it, but I would say that unless you enjoy 80-hour work weeks, outsourcing can be an incredible way to help you grow and scale your business to where you can get to that point where you do hire employees. Some people believe you can't be a business of one and still outsource any work. Again, not true. And then sometimes people have this preconception that outsourcing is expensive. It does cost money, but you have to look at what you get in return. And for what you can get in return as a small business owner, the ROI is incredible, which makes it not expensive. So let's just kind of lay the foundation for this presentation here. So do you need to outsource? So if you find yourself bogged down by admin tasks that you don't really want to do, you're working in areas that just aren't your area of brilliance. How about you're spending just as much time on non-billable work as billable work? So meaning you're spending time on your marketing, your sales follow-up, your admin tasks. You're spending just as much time doing all of that as you are doing work that people actually pay you for. Do you feel like you're working more hours with less to show for it? I.e., you're working more hours, but you've got less dollars, or the same amount of dollars and you're working more hours. So this is a common scenario for solopreneurs and new micro-sized businesses. And the truth is that solopreneurs probably need to outsource more than anyone. When we talk about being an entrepreneur, we talk about the different hats that we have to wear. Yes, you are the secretary, you are the admin, you are the bookkeeper, you are the marketer, you're the salesperson, and you're whatever your job is or whatever your industry and your specialty is. And so as a result, outsourcing to take some of those hats and at least share the burden with someone else can actually free up time and make you more effective and, build a foundation for a better business. So our recommendation is get yourself a virtual assistant. And you're like, virtual assistant? Really? Me? A virtual assistant can handle all sorts of tasks for you, uploading contacts into your CRM, catching you up on emails, scheduling social media posts for you. They can do research on pretty much anything. And then it also includes uploading content to your website, making changes to your portfolio if your business, requires that you have a portfolio. There's so many ways that a virtual assistant can fit in with your business, and it's something that kind of grows over time. And if you pick a virtual assistant who has complementary skills, then you can actually get more done in a smoother process. So for example, my virtual assistant is a graphic designer as well. She's got awesome graphic design skills, which means I can trust her to, design my social media image posts and my ebook covers and any other thing that I could possibly, think of that I might need somebody to do for that sort of thing. She's got an eye for it, as an artist, and I can count on her to produce really great looking stuff. Could I design my ebook cover? Could I do my social media graphics? Heck yes. Canva makes a lot of things possible for us normal people who don't have those sorts of skills. But is that the best use of my time? The answer is no. especially now that I have a effective partner in getting these sorts of tasks done. Um, Considering uploading context into your CRM, you go to a networking event, you come home with a bunch of business cards, and so what I do, I will take pictures of them and share them with my virtual assistant, and she'll put them in for me. I will just go and review each person, and as I review them, I can set that business card aside, and I know that they're in my CRM safe and sound. So once that trust builds, you can kind of start to rely on them, for, even like small decision making type things. Especially if you use things like templates. Templates can be a really valuable tool when you're working with a virtual assistant. It all just really depends on what it is that you want them to do. So before you look at hiring, you really need to set the stage for great work with your virtual assistant. So you should compile a list of all the things you wish that someone else could do for you in your business. So what I'd recommend is keeping a running list, pen and paper, right there by your computer. Or you could keep it on your phone, but I feel like having the open notepad there by your computer reminds you more effectively to jot these things down. But you want to keep that list of, as you're going through your day, do it for a few days as you're going through your day. Oh, this is something that seems pretty simple that I think someone else could do for me. This is data entry. This is, uploading blog posts. This is, something that doesn't necessarily require me to do it. Are these you want to put your low value tasks here? And by low value, it doesn't mean that they're not important, but your high value tasks are the ones that only you can do that generate the most ROI for you being the specific person doing them. So any task that's not a high value task, any task that's not one of your CEO tasks, you should look at handing to someone else so you can continue using your time in the most effective manner. So once you're done with this list, you want to look for a common theme and try to group the tasks together so you can kind of check to see what sort of specialties you'll want from a virtual assistant. So you may want someone who is very good with social media, for example. Maybe social media is the piece that you'd like to hand off. So you'd want to look for a virtual assistant that's got experience in managing social media accounts, uploading content, assessing analytics, at least being able to generate basic reports for you so you can kind of see how things are going. And you can use tools like Hootsuite to schedule those and keep track of reporting and access to accounts. So you've decided you're ready to hire. Awesome. You can create a job listing on a site like Upwork or Freelancer. You can ask your network or you can do a Google search. I will say that the Google search, I tried that route first actually, and it did not work out for me. Not because there wasn't anything to find, but because I did not have enough hours for most of the agencies that I could find. They all wanted somebody who could offer at least 20 hours per week. And that's just not where my business is. So I tried to work 20 to 25 hours a week. And that's, active in my business. I've got my timer going. I have my daughter here at home with me. So I don't work 8-hour days, and I don't want to work 8-hour days. So to say that I could possibly have 20 hours a week for someone else when I'm just doing 20 to 25 myself is just a bit much. So the pricing was good. The per hour rate was good, but the amount of hours they wanted me to pay for was not conducive to my budget. So when you use a site like Upwork, and that's the one I have experience on, the minimum amount of hours is 5, and the minimum you can pay someone is $5 an hour. Now, pricing. You might think, oh, $5 an hour, that's absurd, but it depends on where your virtual assistant is from. It could be that their cost of living and the currency value make $5 an hour a decent rate. And there's nothing wrong with that. So the fact of the matter is that American virtual assistants can ask for rates that may potentially be outside of the budget of the average solopreneur. And that's just a fact. So if you can find a virtual assistant who fits within your budget, no matter where they're located, then that should be a consideration if their skills are attractive to you. And that's not to say that, if you feel strongly about hiring only workers from your country, if you're not from America and you're from Canada, or you're in Europe or you're in Asia and you only want to work with people in your country, that's fine, if you feel strongly about it. So, you have to do what aligns best with your brand. So back to the slide. Draft your job posting and ask someone to look it over. A good job posting will attract good freelancers. A bad, vague job posting, a job posting that's short, doesn't have a lot of detail, that's going to turn them off. As a freelancer, I started out as a freelance writer and now I've got my company, but I started out as a freelance writer, and when I would see job posts that were vague, didn't have a lot of detail, I wouldn't even apply. I wouldn't submit a proposal because I just figured it wasn't worth my time. And more often than not, I was correct. So you have to consider what's important to you and make sure you address that in your interview. You can do an interview through Skype or Zoom or even Google Hangouts. Although I will say on Upwork, the general perception is that people who use Google Hangouts are scammers. Now, that's not true, not all the time. So when I do recommend Google Hangouts, I will say, hey, I'm not going to ask you for money. I'm not going to send you a check. I'm not going to send you a computer or any other scam that's normally happening, but Google Hangouts is what I use. So Google Hangouts is what I use to communicate with my VA during the day as well. And it's actually a great platform. It's just, unfortunately, the scammers super like it for some reason. So if I do want to use Google Hangouts, I will preface it by saying, hey, I'm not a scammer. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I just like Google Hangouts. It's got video chat and it's free. Upwork also has a video chatting platform, so you could also just do it right there in the platform. I also would say be prepared to invest in a test week. So if you talk with a few VAs and you settle on a couple that you would like to do test runs with, be committed to paying for that week. If you have a good feeling about them, their portfolio is strong. If you want, you can also ask for references, but that is the way that you should proceed next, with the expectation that you will, kind of evaluate at the end of that test period. So what are you looking for during your test week? So you don't expect that person to just jump in and take control of your business because, or the parts of your business that you don't want to have that control over anymore. That's not the way it works. But what you are looking for are compatible working styles, great levels of communication, ability to learn, and attention to detail. There's so many tools and things for business management and business development anymore that no one person can know them all. But if they show that ability to learn, then that means they can learn your programs or learn your processes. And that's really what you want. You also want to be crystal clear on your expectations. And that was actually something my VA told me in preparation for this presentation. You want to be clear on your expectations. Both sides should be clear. So make sure you encourage your virtual assistant to ask you questions. Let them know that you would be more worried if they didn't have any questions for you at all. Expect some back and forth. But if you feel like by the end of the week, that you guys could get into a good rhythm, then that sounds like a viable candidate to me. It's not that you should expect no mistakes the first week. That's not your measuring stick. Those things that I said before, compatible working styles, ability to learn, and attention to detail, those are indicative of a great working relationship with your virtual assistant. I'd recommend focusing on 1 to 2 projects that you'd really like to hand over and see how they do with it. And then that way you can kind of see, because those will be the projects that you'd like to have them take over regularly, with you approving, once it's all finished and you reviewing it. So let's say you're 75% sold on the VA thing, but you're like, how do I, make this profitable as an investment? So it is an investment in your business. When I first started with a virtual assistant, I made sure that any hour that she worked, I also worked, but on client work. So I focused her on my admin tasks that wouldn't necessarily pay, right? Because they're admin tasks. Nobody's saying that admin tasks don't have an ROI, but there was no direct correlation. So if she worked on updating my portfolio, because I hadn't done it in a long time and it was a task that just fell off. As a writer, graphic designer, web designer, I'm sure, if you're any of those where your job requires a portfolio or maybe you do case studies for your work, I'm sure you can empathize with your portfolio getting out of date. So let's say she spends an hour updating my portfolio. In return, I spend an hour working on two different client projects. So I took that hour that I would have had to do for my portfolio, which is not a high value task because someone else can effectively update my portfolio. And I focused on work that I could be the only person doing. So if you do it this way, you will actually see an immediate increase in your weekly revenue because their hours will cost less than yours. So depending on how much you're paying, a few extra hours of client work could cover your virtual assistant's fees for the month, depending on how much you're paying them an hour and their hourly rate. And that's something that you really can't beat. So, tools of the trade. So, having worked with a virtual assistant for several months now, we're almost up on a year. I've had two different ones. When you're getting started, and even as you're going about day to day and they integrate more with your business processes, the best tool for teaching tasks or trying to explain something or reviewing a piece of work, offering a review, use loom.com is the best. I use it for everything. When I'm sending a help desk ticket to a website, I will use Loom and record my screen. I'm using Loom right now to record this screen. For sharing credentials, I recommend LastPass. LastPass allows you to share credentials without revealing the actual password for the account that you're using. And should you no longer be working with that person, you can easily rescind access without having to change all of your passwords. So I actually gave this presentation this morning, and we came to the conclusion, or somebody told a story, and in the end, I did remind everyone that it's not always about trusting somebody. It's not. It's not always about trusting somebody. But if somebody has a list of your passwords and they get hacked, then not only did whoever hacked them get all of their information, they also got all of your passwords too. So that's why something like LastPass is easy. It's a browser extension for the most part, although they do have a full website, of course, but it just automatically puts them in there. It masks the passwords. And when the time period for working together is over, you can easily rescind those passwords. And this is great for when you have a website issue and you need to share credentials to allow a developer onto your website. When the issue is resolved and they no longer need access, you can rescind that access. So Trello is great for simple project management. My VA and I use this tool pretty effectively. We also use it working with some of the writers on the team and editors. So it's basically looks like a Scrum board. It's almost like a digital sticky note board, and each task for a client is a ticket, and we can add people to the ticket. We can add attachments. We can comment on the ticket, due dates. Like, you can keep it really simple, or you can use their more advanced features. So that's why I recommend Trello. Some of the other platforms I've used Asana and Jira and what was it, Zoho, I think. And some of them just seem to be a bit more advanced, not that they're not also useful, but Trello, I think, is probably the best for beginners in terms of looking at project management simplified. And then any simple chat platform if you want to be engaged with your virtual assistant throughout the day. So like I said, I use Google Hangouts because I use Google Everything. But if you already have like Slack that you could use Slack or Skype. I like Google Hangouts because it integrates with my email and I've got that email tab open anyway. So those would be the ones that I would say are probably the most important. Everything else will be, if you use WordPress or you use Wix or, whatever CRM that you use. So, I have recommendations for those too, but in terms specifically of looking at, how to best manage your relationship with a VA, this is what I would recommend. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it helps you decide to outsource some of your work so you can start focusing more on your areas of brilliance and generating more business and revenue for your company, whether you're a solopreneur or a small business. So I'm more than happy to discuss it with you in the comments. So feel free to comment. I'm happy to chat about it. Thanks again for joining me.